Hello and welcome to this video on Chapter 2, Section 2, which is about the essay structure. Well, as you probably already know by now, an essay is divided into three main parts, or sections. There's the introduction, the body, and of course the conclusion. And in this section on essay structure, we're going to look at each division or each section as follows. Firstly, the introduction. Okay, well, the introduction consists of two things: general statements, or some other people like to call it background information, and the thesis statement. Okay, now the general statement or background information are sentences which give general background to the topic being discussed in the essay. Okay, so they begin with a lead-in statement which is very broad, and gradually the background information becomes very narrow until you get to the second part of the introduction, which is the thesis statement. And the thesis statement is a highly focused sentence which is similar to a topic sentence because it's the controlling sentence. However, it does not control only one paragraph, it controls the entire essay. So reread the last sentence of the first paragraph of the model essay before, if you have time. This is the thesis statement. So what we're saying here is, in the introduction paragraph, the thesis statement is usually the last sentence. We call it a statement because sometimes it can be more than one sentence. It tells the reader clearly that the essay will give several reasons. Now, in the previous example on television violence, it told us that the essay will give 4 reasons to explain why television is a bad influence on children. And here it is. Recent studies indicate that violent television programs can have a detrimental impact on children's behavioral patterns in 4 areas. So that's the introduction. Well, after the introduction, we next come to the body paragraphs. And the number of paragraphs that you have in the body will depend on the type of essay you have and how many points you've mentioned in the thesis statement. Okay, so body paragraph 1. This paragraph will have a topic sentence to tell the reader the main or the controlling idea of the paragraph. Thus, from the topic sentence, it's clear that the writer is going to explain their first supporting point with added examples and so on. Okay, then we have body paragraph 2. And this is going to be the second supporting point, and it too has to have a topic sentence and supporting ideas. Body paragraph 3 is similar, and body paragraph 4 again, of course, is similar. So the number of body paragraphs you have will depend firstly on the type of essay, and secondly on the number of support points you've indicated in your thesis statement. Then we come to the conclusion. Now, the conclusion consists of 2 parts. Firstly, a summary of the main points of the essay. Well, perhaps not so much a summary, but a restatement of the thesis statement. So the last sentence of the introduction is the thesis statement, and the first sentence of the conclusion is a restatement of the thesis statement. And then after the restatement of the thesis statement, the conclusion has the writer's final thoughts or comments. And the final thoughts or comments usually consists of perhaps a warning, advice, predictions, suggestions, that sort of thing, and then a nice closing sentence. Next we come to this diagram, which outlines or shows you in diagrammatic form the structure of the essay, And as you can see, it begins with the introduction, general statements or background information and thesis, then the body. Okay, here is the body paragraph number 1, and you can see that body paragraph number 1 begins with a topic sentence and is followed by one or more supporting sentences, and if at all possible, or if there's time, perhaps a concluding sentence. And the concluding sentence is really a kind of restatement of the topic sentence. The topic sentence contains the controlling idea, and the concluding sentence repeats or rephrases the controlling idea for you. That's body paragraph 1, and of course body paragraph 2 and body paragraph 3 and 4 and so on, depending on the length of your essay, are similar. Last of all, we have the conclusion, and as we said earlier, the conclusion consists of 2 parts. It begins with a restatement of the main points, which is really a restatement of the thesis statement, and final comments. Okay, no new ideas, no new arguments in the final comments. This is really just like saying a kind of goodbye, or telling the reader that the essay has now finished. Okay, section 2.1, the introductory paragraph. The introduction is the first paragraph of the essay. It begins the essay, and as we've said before, it has 2 parts. General statements or background information, and the thesis statement. General statements give the reader background information about the topic of the essay. They should be interesting enough to keep the reader's attention, and they are very broad. You start off very broadly and gradually you narrow down to the thesis statement, and the thesis statement introduces the main idea or the controlling idea of the essay. Alright, it states the main topic or the main idea or the controlling idea of the essay, and it may list the subtopics of the main topic, okay, or it might just give a number. It may also mention the method of organization, and it is usually the last sentence of the introduction. Okay, so let's move on to task 2. Okay, let me see if I can explain task 2 to you. It says, read the following introductory paragraph to an essay entitled Television, Harmful to Children. Notice the general statements or the background information and the thesis statement. The first few statements present a general background information on television and its place in our culture. The last sentence is the thesis statement, and in the thesis statement the writer states their opinion or their position or their stand or point of view or assertion. We have many words for this about the subject of too much television viewing for children. The writer's position in this case is that television is a bad or negative influence. The thesis statement also states the reasons that will be given to support this position. Now, the number of general statements you write in an introduction will depend on how long an essay is. However, you should write at least 2 or 3 general statements in the introduction. The first sentence should be a very general or broad comment about the subject. The second sentence should be less general, third sentence less general still, and so on. So the last general statement should be the least general of all. Now, after the last general statement, you write the thesis statement, which is the last sentence of the introduction. The thesis statement is the most specific or the most focused statement of the introductory paragraph. It names the topic and the controlling idea for the entire essay. Notice that the structure of the model essay introduction which moves from general statements to the specific thesis statement, resembles a funnel, wide at the top or at the beginning and then narrow at the end. Here it is. Okay, so you can see at the beginning it's very wide, and as you move through the introductory paragraph, the statements become more and more specific, more and more focused, until you finally get to the thesis statement, which is the most specific or the most focused part of the entire introductory paragraph.